Our next inductee is Pretty Paul Roma. We talk about a guy that's done everything in this business. Paul Roma's that. He's got the most patient kids in the world. But hold on. I was just putting over your kids. I'm honest to God, I have 12-year-old twins at home. I've never seen such well-behaved children in my life. Oh my God. You're an angel, my friend. But here to induct Paul Roma into the Hall of Fame is his fellow brethren from Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, a New England Hall of Famer, please welcome the one, the only Mario Mancini.
Roma stole some of my thunder, but I'd not prepared anyway. Just a couple things. To talk about how humble Howard Finkel is, I did a fan fest with him in 2014 when I was inducted, and a bunch of fans were around his table, and I said, you know, he coined the phrase WrestleMania. And Howard quickly went into his pocket and pulled out 3 quarters and said, I have a few coins in my pocket too. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was. He just was really humble. He just didn't care. For Ray, I love Ray. I was Ray's debut match in the WWF. I was the first guy I ever worked with there. And I'm not going to lie, I was scared to death, you know, because he was huge, and, you know, he just really, his face was always beet red, and I thought he was going to kill me. But he was good. We became friends, and I remember one day when I came back to the dressing room, and I sat down, and I was huffing and puffing, and he looked at me, and he said, Mancini, you're the best damn jobber I've ever seen in my life. And I said, Ray, I don't know if that's a compliment or an insult. And, you know, he got up and gave me a hug, you know, and he said, I love you, brother. You know, that was a compliment, you know. Ray just loved everybody. I miss him to death. I miss him singing in the dressing room and cracking his jokes, and he was just a great guy. Great guy, Ray. You are going to find out things about Paul Roma that you don't know. But you're going to understand. Because some people did my job for me tonight. Some people that were inducted that looked over and said, Paul Roma. They got it. Paul Roma marches to his own beat of his own drum. He always has, and he always will. And if you don't hear that beat, you're not gonna get Paul Roma, and you never will. Back in 1984, you see, people, I have to digress a little bit because at Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, where I have 5 partners, and one of it being Paul Roma, and Paul Roma being the face of Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, I try to teach Mr. Dillon, I try to teach the students about back then, pre-WrestleMania 1, but they don't listen. They don't listen. So when I start saying back in 84 and back in 85, they get a good rib out of me. So back in 1984, and if my memory is correct, and it usually is, we were in Trumbull, Connecticut. Gino Carabello and I were with the WWF, and for some reason, the WWF never gave us a hard time. We worked one independent show for one guy, and that guy's name was Rocco LaPenta. He was out of Avon, Connecticut, and Tony Altomar, who was working for Titan Sports for The Office, he would he would co-promote these shows with Rocco LaPenta. And Gino Carabello and I were in the dressing room, and I believe it was an elderly boxing manager or trainer walked in, and behind him was this Greek god carved out of stone. And I looked, and he walked like anything in front of him would just blow up into smithereens. And I looked at Gino and I said, who the hell is that? And he said, I have no idea. I go, this guy's got to be a professional bodybuilder. A couple weeks later, Paul Roma came to the wrestling school. Now, when I tell you that I went to professional wrestling school my senior year of high school, from October of 1983 until July of 1984, that's 10 months. Paul Roma, I've said it on podcasts, TV interviews, radio interviews, the greatest athlete I've ever seen in my life, came into that wrestling school, and 6 weeks later, he was sitting in Poughkeepsie. 6 weeks. So we're sitting there in Poughkeepsie. Now, Roma's a shoot. He's a pure shoot. He knows nothing. He knows zero about professional wrestling. He's not a fan of professional wrestling. He's never watched professional wrestling. He has no clue. He's a pure shoot. We're sitting in the dressing room, and he's sitting there, and Hulk Hogan walks by. He looks at me and he goes, who's that? I go, that's Hulk Hogan. He goes, who's he? I go, he's the heavyweight champion. He goes, he looks Hogan up and down and he goes, he's fat. The guy's gonna get heat right away, right? I'm beside myself, you know. He knew nothing. Paul Roma strives to be the best. If you can't be the best, you're nothing. The determination in him, the fire in his eyes. I was 18, he was 25. And to see him come back into the dressing room with a murderous look in his face, because at that point, he was doing what I was doing. At some point, he wasn't anymore. I kept doing it, but he wasn't doing it anymore. So we would get in the car, and he would be sick to his stomach. I mean, he would be in rage. And like I said, he was a shoot. And he'd look at me, and he'd go, you don't understand. I take this guy in the street. I'll kick his ass right in the street. I go, Roma, that's you know, that's not the business, you know. But he can't beat me. I go, yeah, but you just got to do it for a little while. Because as I sat in that dressing room with Hogan and all the other guys, I looked at Roma, and no one looked like Roma. No one. And I knew he would become something big. You're talking about a man with no bloodline. He had no bloodline in the business. No generation. He wasn't 6'8". And he's a heterosexual male. So he had no way but him. And by God, he made it. He made it the hard way on his own talent, with his own determination. I've known Paul for 34 years. It's been an honor and a privilege to know him and work with him. Well, wait a minute. See, I walked into New Haven Coliseum one day. I wasn't booked. I think it was 1987. Chief Jay Strongbow was my second father. So I arrived to the New Haven Coliseum with a sausage and pepper wedge for him because he's Italian. And it was about 5:30 and I was starving, and I said, Chief, I'm going to go out and get something to eat. I'll be back, because I was just saying hi to the boys. Roma, he's my brother. So I came back after an hour. Chief's got his hand to his head. He goes, well, thank God you got back here, kid. I'm short. Get dressed. Now, back in the 80s, I ate about $26 worth of Chinese food. So I said, Chief, who am I working with? He goes, Roma. I go, work with Roma? I don't care. He's my brother. So I go walking into Roma and all smiles. I go, hey, man, we're working together. He's, yeah. I go, man, I just ate a ton of Chinese food. He's my brother. He goes, you have two choices. You could put your finger down your throat and throw up here, or you can throw it up there. And I looked at him and I went, what, ribbing me. He's ribbing me. So we go in the ring in front of 15,000 people in that house show, and he starts hitting the ropes. He starts crisscrossing. I'm standing there. So what are you going to do? I started crisscrossing with him, and he wouldn't stop crisscrossing. I'm waiting for him to drop down in front of me. I said, screw it, I'm going to drop down in front of him. But I knew I couldn't, because I can't leapfrog and I can't drop kick. Somebody was inducted tonight and said, you drop kick him in the, I drop kick you right in the kneecaps. I actually drop kicked Don Morocco in the kneecaps once. So I knew I couldn't do that. So he finally dropped down. I hit the other rope. He leapfrog drop kicked me. I took a powder, went outside the ring, picked up the ring apron, and lost all the Chinese food underneath the ring. Went back into the ring and had a great match, and I went back in the dressing room. The Chief went, you're going to clean that up, right? Said, yeah, Chief. You're not going to make the ring guys do that, right? That's not right. No, Chief, I'll clean it up. You know, there was, Curtis Lee was the guardian angel, you know, New York City. His wife, Lisa, decided she wanted to become a professional wrestler. And they all came to the wrestling school where the gym is, and Mean Gene Okerlund was there, and everybody was there, and Gene said, hey, Mario, you want to get in the ring with Lisa? I said, sure. I get in her, will you let her hip toss you? I go, sure. I'm putting everybody over anyway. I'd put the concession guy over, I didn't care. So anyway, she gives me the hip toss, and Gene Okerlund goes, Mario Mancini, what do you think of Lisa Sliwa? And I went, well, Gene, she's tough. So Gene goes, I got a good idea. Roma's out there working out. Why don't you get Roma in the ring with her? I'm 19. I go, sure. Roma's doing tricep pushdowns. I don't know, the pin on the bottom, 245s on top of it, whatever. He's going. So I go up to Roma. I go walking up to him. Hey, Roma. Yeah. Mean Gene wants you to get in the ring with Lisa Sliwa. He goes, Mancini, get away from me. I go, no, Roma, it'll be good for you. Get in the ring with Lisa. He wants you to get in the ring with Lisa. He goes, Mancini, get away from me. I go, come on, Roma. Before he did a spinning back kick, came this close to my face. I swear to God, I thought he was going to take my head off. That's my brother. There's a reason for these stories. When I say Roma marches to his own beat, there were people up here tonight, you know, dedicating some of their career to him, his teachings. Paul Roma loves professional wrestling. Paul Roma's put his life into professional wrestling. If you don't understand him, I'm sorry. But I do. And he's got the heart of a giant. And the thunder that he did steal from me is he didn't get into wrestling for fame. He got into wrestling to help children. He's dedicated most of his time as a professional wrestler to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. The funny part about the people that meet Paul Roma and walk away and go, oh, jeez. It's only because Paul Roma does what a lot of us don't have the nerve to do. And that's tell it exactly the way it is. He doesn't pull any punches. He tells you exactly what he feels and exactly what he's thinking. And he prides his life on it. Because that's how his father raised him. And there was no man greater in his life than his father. So it's been my honor and my privilege. You know, a lot tonight, people are talking about, hey, man, I'm so glad I get to see you tonight. I'm so glad I get to see you tonight. You know, in 2015, Steve Tracy called me up, and he said, hey, man, you want to open up a pro wrestling school? I said, yeah. You think Roma want to do it? I don't know. Let me text him. Hey, Roma. Yep. Hey, you want to open up a wrestling school? Yep. Those were the two words he said to me, Y-E-P. But I said, Roma's in. He's given his life to the wrestling school. He's a devout husband, a devout father. And he's got a big heart. And if you come to Paul Roma for help, he'll help you. So after all these years and the stereotyping that some people might have of him, here's the secret to Paul Roma. Loyalty. It's my honor and my privilege to induct into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2018, my brother Paul Roma.
Well, I don't have any stories from 1985, so no take it home, guys, okay? And that's another good point. I can't remember them. I'm humbled. I really am. Everything Mario said was pretty spot on. I do tell it like it is. I really appreciated everything he said, and some of what you guys said was great, really. And then what's really nice about it is that you brought it up, you know, and it says a lot. It really does. I already talked for Ray. One thing I had told him was, if people can't take the time to get to know who and what I am, then I don't have time for them. And I stick by that. I really do. I give people all the time in the world, and kids, forget it. I'll do anything for kids. But again, there's a reason. Mario hit on it. I said it before. Power and glory forever. The best, the greatest tag team that they just couldn't stop. That's all I know. That's all they'll ever be. Ray, there he is. He's always with me. Always. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.